Hi, this is Dwayne with the Board of Regents, just doing some sound tests and video checks if anybody wants to test real quick. We do have the recording started and we are streaming live on YouTube. So make sure when you open your mic to please make sure you silence any outside notifications.
Hey, Dwayne, it's Nikki. Is that link going to go up on our live website page?
Yes, it's about to be on. It's about to be on.
Thank you.
Good morning, Toria. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Claire. Can you hear me? Good morning, Victor.
Morning.
Okay.
Hey,
Good
Toya.
morning, Stephanie. Can you hear me? Senator Boudreaux, can you hear me? Please unmute to let me know that you can hear us. We're testing the sound.
We do have the link on the web page now, so it started.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Christy. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect.
Hi, Tanisha. This is Carrie. I'm here.
Oh, good morning, Carrie. Susanna, can you hear me? Randall?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm here and I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks, Tanisha. And good morning, everyone.
Morning, Randall. Yeah, we see you. Good picture. Claire, can you hear us? Claire Norris, are you on?
Hello.
Good morning, Dr. Verrett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone?
Good morning.
All right, let's see. Tanisha is there. Tanisha, let me know when we're ready.
Yes, and we're learning a few more people and we should be ready shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Looks like we have a couple of people that have joined us by phone, and you will just be able to listen on your phone.
I know one phone number is Meg. If the 318-927
Yeah,
phone number, if you guys would unmute and just let us know who you are for attendance purposes, that would be great.
morning, Claire. Can you hear us?
I hear you perfectly. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you and we see you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Hey, good morning. This is Patrick Jefferson.
Hi, Patrick. Good morning. This is
Thank you
Dwayne.
so much.
Good morning.
Hey, top of the morning to everyone. Happy New Year.
Hi.
And I apologize. I would do the Zoom, but I got to get ready for a trial tomorrow, so I'm in and out. But I'm listening as best I could.
Hey, we're glad to have you however we can get you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's see. Tanisha, should we go ahead and get started?
Yes, ma'am, we can go ahead and get started.
All right, well, I'm happy to call the February 8th meeting of the HBCU Advisory Council to order and to welcome all of you. I'm delighted to see you. Looking forward to the time when we can gather in the same room safely. But the work continues in the safe format, and I just thank you for your time and your interest and your energy around this important work. I'm Kim Hunter-Reid, Commissioner of Higher Education. I'm happy to call the meeting to order, and I'll ask Tanisha Ellis to call the roll so we can get started.
Dr. Reed,
Here.
Dr. Amons. Okay. Dr. Belton,
Here.
Well, Dr. Amons is here. If you'll unmute, that way you'll be ready. Thank you, Dr. Amons.
All right, thank you.
Joseph Bowie. Okay. Senator Boudreaux.
Present.
Right. Mr. Castillo. Okay. Kelly Telly White.
Present.
Dr. Ellis. Representative Gaines. Dr. Gallo. Senator Harris. And Clara Norris is here for Dr. Henderson. Representative Hughes.
Here.
Dr. Kimbrough.
Here.
Mandy Mitchell.
Here. Good morning.
Chancellor McMeans. Kelsey Perrin. Chancellor Pierre.
Here.
Senator Price. Dr. Steib.
Good morning. Here.
Dr. Teamer.
Present.
Dr. Verrett.
Present.
Okay. And Miss Stephanie Willis. Dr. Reed, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. Let me ask for approval of the August minutes. Those were sent to you in your materials. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by John Pierre, seconded by Representative Hughes. Any questions or corrections? If not, any opposition? All right, minutes are passed. Let me congratulate our newest HBCU leader, Dr. Amons. Congratulations to you in your
Thank you.
new role leading SUNO. Delighted for you. I don't know if you have any comments to make, but we're just so pleased and happy for you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Reed and members of the Advisory Council. And I see some of the heads of institutions in New Orleans who I have been working with over the last year. I just want to thank President Belton and the Board of Supervisors for giving me the opportunity to lead SUNO during this new era of growth and development. I just see so many opportunities in the state's largest city and the 50th largest city in America. And so we're putting together a team and we look forward to the work that's ahead of us. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. These are exciting times in our state and our nation. So excited to see the elevated interest and all of the appropriate spotlight that is on HBCUs and the leaders that HBCUs are producing, including our vice president. So it's just a great time, and I'm delighted that we have such legislative interest, so much higher ed leadership in the HBCU environment, because I think we can continue to show the nation how to do it right when it comes to elevating our HBCUs and coming together as a community to really advance good work. So just delighted to do that. One thing that I really appreciate about the council is I think we have a really good structure that allows us to do very productive work. The councils meet quarterly, the subcommittees are meeting in between and doing good work and advancing the work and then sharing it back. So today really is a spotlight on our federal and state resources. That committee has the bulk of the content for today. As you know, from last year, we tried to make sure we were balancing bringing to you foundation opportunities and foundation partnerships or potential relationships we can cultivate with big ideas. And I think today represents a little bit of both of those. I'm so delighted that we have Christy Slater with the Kellogg Foundation with us. But Dr. Toya Barnes-Teamer and Carrie Robeson from our team have been at the work with all of the federal and state resources committee members. So I'm going to ask Dr. Teamer to kick us off with our guest, and then Carrie to move us forward with Dr. Stubblefield and his amazing presentation. So Dr. Teamer, good to see you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everybody. And I do want to also acknowledge my co-chair, Dr. Ronald Verrett from Xavier University. So actually, Carrie keeps us both in order as we continue to do the work that we do. So I do want to acknowledge Dr. Verrett. But I'm really excited. I have the honor and privilege of introducing someone that I've known for a while. As Kim mentioned, the commissioner mentioned that Christy works with Kellogg Foundation. She is a program officer on the New Orleans team. So she will be talking in general about Kellogg, but specifically about her work in the New Orleans area. So Dr. Amons, as we talk about, your relationships in the area with the other HBCU presidents and other presidents, as I see Dr. Stibe on the screen as well, Christy will be sharing information for New Orleans, but she'll be sharing information across the state and opportunities working with the Louisiana Board of Regents. So as was mentioned, Christy is a program officer for the New Orleans team with W.K. Kellogg. In this role, she helps develop programming priorities, reviews and recommends proposals for funding, manages and monitors a portfolio of active grants, and designs and implements national grant initiatives, place-based work, and multi-year projects that affect systemic change in program strategy in the New Orleans area. Prior to joining the foundation, Christy served as the Director of Economic Opportunity at the Foundation for Louisiana, where she supported the development and growth of the foundation's program-related investment fund and managed the foundation's grant portfolios, focusing on economic opportunity and neighborhood organizing and planning. She has also served as program officer at ECD, Hope Community Credit Union, and as public investment project manager at the Mayor's Office of Economic Development in New Orleans. She holds an MBA from the University of Phoenix and has a bachelor's degree in mass communications from Louisiana State University. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you all Ms. Christy Wallace Slater. Christy.
Thank you, Dr. Teamer. Oh, that was way too formal. I make me sound way more important than I am. I appreciate being here today. Thank you all so much for inviting me. I would like to share a little bit with you all about the Kellogg Foundation and in particular our work in New Orleans. As Dr. Teamer mentioned, talk about some upcoming opportunities and leave some space for some questions. So without further ado, I guess we can jump right into it. I also want to share that as many of you are, I'm working from home. So we've got school going on in the background and I live very near to a fire station. So at any moment, there'll be some background noise. So I just would like to acknowledge that and apologize in advance for all of the activity that's happening over here. All right, next slide, please. So a little bit about the Kellogg Foundation. If you are not aware, we were founded by Will Keith Kellogg, who is the Kellogg cereal pioneer. And when he established the foundation in 1930, his overall focus was this quote: "So use the money as you please, so long as it promotes the health, happiness, and well-being of children." So our focus at the foundation, we say we are all about the children. All right, next slide. So a little bit of a kind of overview of the foundation's work in general. We have three main priority areas: thriving children, working families, and equitable communities. So like I mentioned, we're all about the children, but we know children live in families and those families live in communities. So all of the work is interconnected. Next slide. In those three priority areas, we focus on early childhood education, family economic security, which is for the work in New Orleans really boils down to workforce development and employment equity. So workforce and entrepreneurship support. We also nationwide focus on asset development. We haven't had as much of that work in New Orleans. Our main two have really been workforce and supporting small business development. And then on the health equity side, we focus on health equity, meaning access to affordable health care, maternal and child health, and access to healthy food. And all of our work is done through a lens of what we consider our DNA, which is racial equity and racial healing, community engagement, and leadership development. Next slide, please. So as Dr. Teamer mentioned, I'm on the Mississippi New Orleans team, but I focus and I'm based here in New Orleans. I guide the strategy for the team, and we have other program officers that lead specific bodies of work here. But our overarching vision for New Orleans is that she becomes a child-centered city. And so what do I mean by that? I mean that all empower, all policies, programming, practices, partnerships, and people are creating conditions for children and families to thrive. So that's a very ambitious goal, but in partnership with our grantees, we are working towards that. Next slide, please. All right, so what does this look like specifically for New Orleans? So as I mentioned, employment equity, that really is workforce development, where we work with partners that are helping to connect folks to jobs, but not just any job. We want folks to connect to jobs that have a career pathway, that are going to pay at least a living wage, have benefits and supports in order to help them be successful in the job as well as to advance. In addition to that, I mentioned support for small business development. So we work with technical assistance providers, and really for the work in New Orleans, we're kind of building a pipeline of support. So for each stage of a business's growth, there will be technical assistance providers that can help support your growth and access to capital. Health equity, as I mentioned, access to affordable health care, maternal and child health. The emphasis has been on breastfeeding in particular, in initiations and duration, meaning trying to get supports for mothers so that they can breastfeed their babies until 6 months. Food systems, this is access to healthy foods. We've done a lot of work in access to healthy foods in the school system, as well as support for farmers markets and other programs that bring healthy food to neighborhoods. Leadership development, we look at leadership development also kind of on a continuum. So we have a lot of programs that focus on youth development, then community engagement at the community-wide level, as well as what we call systems change leadership. So that would include programs like our Community Leadership Network Fellowship Program, as well as an emphasis on programs like, for those that are in New Orleans, you may have already heard of or participated in the Racial Equity Institute training. So racial equity training for leaders, right? So folks that can make the changes within their organizations or the systems in which they are working in to create more equitable outcomes for everyone. And then early childhood education and education systems. Our focus really is ages 0 to 8, so birth to 3rd grade, and making sure that that children have access to high quality education systems, that there's parent engagement, as well as support for professional development support for teachers. Next slide. So the part that you all are probably most interested in is this slide here, meeting the needs of our communities. So last June, the Kellogg Foundation, along with the Ford Foundation and two other large-scale family foundations, announced that we would each increase our annual payout. And what that means for, well, first, why was to help meet the needs of communities due to COVID-19, and in particular, particularly supporting nonprofits because of the economic downturn as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what does this mean for the Kellogg Foundation? This means an additional $300 million over 2 years that will be invested in community. Go back one slide, please. Thanks. And so at the time that we made the announcement, we didn't have a process for how folks could access these dollars. So we took the rest of the summer and the early fall to decide that the best way to get the funds to community was to just follow our normal practices. So we do not have a special invitation process for this. We do not have a special application. It's through our normal grant making portal and proposal process. But with these dollars, we are looking at 5 key categories, which you'll see on the screen. So it's innovations in quality early childhood education, employment or economic equity and health equity, philanthropic partnerships for community rebuilding and reimagining post-COVID-19, support of people of color serving institutions or leadership, racial equity and racial healing, including narrative change, and finally, policy advocacy and systems change. So it's not much different than what we normally fund. It's just a deeper dive. And so right now we are starting to have conversations in community about what these proposals could potentially look like. We are, while we don't have a certain time for anybody to apply for these funds, we are undergoing a systems change of our own, and we're updating our grant making system. So currently our proposal process is offline until March 15th, but after that, we'll be back up and running. And really that's all I had to share at this point. I wanted to open it up for any questions, comments, any place that you need a little deeper understanding with anything that I've shared today.
Questions? Christy, I'm apologize. I had to step out and take a call because my husband's getting well from COVID, but I don't know if you shared this, but how best should the HBCUs think about plugging in? How can they be most successful we don't want to just write grants that may not be
Right.
on target. So are you available for guidance and support?
am.
How do we best get our arms around what to do?
Sure. So if we go back to the last slide, I'd like to leave that up just because this will help to give you a little bit more framing in terms of how what the alignment should be. But I am absolutely available to be in thought partnership, thinking through any potential applications. In addition to that, the foundation has just what is the name of this program? Has a new team that just recently formed called Advancing Equity. I believe that is the name. And so with that, we'll also, yes, I'll put my contact info in the chat. That would, let me do that as well. I'll do that after we finish with any other questions. I'll be sure to put my contact info in the chat. And so there's an additional focus on supporting HBCUs at the national level as well. So there's more information that will be coming from that body of work as it develops as well. But I would say the success of a proposal really is its alignment with any one of these categories. That's at least the first step, and absolutely I'm happy to help think through any potential bodies of work.
Right. Dr. Verrett, do you have a question?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank the Kellogg Foundation because they have funded our Center for Equity Justice and to start that, which has been focused on, I would say, on your fourth bullet, which is on the equity and healing focus. And I do think the narrative change, there is a place for HBCUs to be serving the nation and be able to tell the story from another perspective, from descendants of slaves. So there's work that we need to do. But also the large advocacy locally in help in provide HBCUs because of our geography can be important negotiating of conversations in our local communities, whether it's here or in other parts of the South. And I think those pieces align. I think much of our work aligns with that focus foundation. So I want this is useful. What we probably need to think about is there something that we can do as HBCUs in consort?
Agree. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Dr. Verrett. Dr. McMeans, did you have a question?
Yes, I did have a question. I am very, very interested in early childhood education and development, and also youth development, and the other one that's coming on board that's is a priority nationally now is also working in some of our communities with our Black farmers. So I would like to talk offline with you about the possibility of those three areas because the youth part is also an area that, especially in STEM and getting our young people interested in those areas. So I wanted to make sure that those three areas may be three that will fit as it relates to your program priorities. And this is Orlando McMeans from Chancellor Ag Center. I'm sorry.
Southern Ag, yes, thank you.
Nope, that sounds, all of those sound like potential, that they potentially align. So I would love to talk to you more about that. And I am putting my contact info in the chat right now.
Okay, I think Mandy, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, good morning. Hi, Christy.
Good
Mandy
morning.
Mitchell from Louisiana Economic Development, and I'm very interested in your economic equity component. I would like to reach out to you and connect offline. It's something that we have been working on at Louisiana Economic Development, developing ways to better support minority businesses statewide, just in New Orleans, but I'm definitely interested in learning more about that. And then also from the HBCU perspective, one of the prongs that we want to start working on in our subcommittee pertains to opportunities for minority students coming out of HBCUs to have equitable access to these openings at these companies that are in the state. So interested to know what intermediaries you all connect with to support small businesses. I don't know if you can share that on today's call,
Sure.
but happy to connect with you. Would like to connect offline.
Yes, both. So I would absolutely love to talk to you some more. The small business partners that we are working with right now, like I mentioned, there's kind of a pipeline of support. So from the more micro business side, Fund 17, then Thrive New Orleans, so Launch NOLA,
Okay.
Propeller, Good
Okay.
Work Network, and all the way up to the New Orleans Business Alliance with the Invest NOLA Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. So just kind of that continuum. So there's support along each step of the way.
Okay.
And New Orleans Startup Fund. Sorry, that's the last partner.
Yeah, we're plugged in to actually almost all of those that you mentioned, but definitely want to learn more.
Great.
Thank you.
Dr. Amons?
Yes, thank you, Christy. I would be remiss if I did not share with you our appreciation at SUNO for the planning grant that was awarded to our College of Education to help us develop in our recently constructed education building a child care center. We are definitely in sync with the notion that New Orleans would be a child-centered city. And one of the things that we saw, especially as a part of the pandemic, where parents who attend the institution were having problems with the place for their children. And so this planning grant is going to go a long way in helping us to fully develop this child care center. And I just want to share my appreciation on behalf of SUNO.
Oh, we are definitely excited for the partnership as well. And what I appreciate about this opportunity to speak with you all today is that we've had, unfortunately, in my view, just a kind of a piecemeal relationship with the HBCUs, especially in New Orleans. We've had, a grant here, a grant there. And so I see this conversation today as a starting point to have a more robust relationship. And that's what I'm hoping that we can do. And also, I want to just say that while our focus is in New Orleans, we have been we recognize that decisions that are made in Baton Rouge absolutely impact the work that's happening in New Orleans. So over the past couple of years in particular, we've been trying to work more on the community engagement component, and the leadership work really has been supporting advocacy efforts so that policy decisions that are happening at the state level are more aligned and in sync with the work that we're supporting on the ground in New Orleans. And so there is an opportunity to do some work more statewide, even though our primary focus is in New Orleans. So I just wanted to also lift that up as well.
Great. We believe in collective impact, Christy, and
Yes.
I know Christy and I have had a conversation as well as we think about the master plan and really advancing prosperity in our state, and how do we collectively bring the power of our HBCUs to bear, the power of policy development and narrative and leadership, all of those things to bear. So we're very excited about that. I think Dr. Verrett has another question, and I'm watching time, so maybe two more questions.
Just a very quick follow-up. You mentioned that your early childhood goes up to the third grade. One of the interests that we have as HBCUs is the larger pipeline, how students fail out or drop out of their career paths. And so do you sustain aim, because it could be seen as workforce, but the pathways and the pipelines to college and to higher degrees is something that we have a direct interest in, because we know more than half of our students, our students don't even track to college. And that, is there any interest in the foundation in that area?
Yes, so we've had, while nationally our workforce development work has really focused on middle career and scaling up skills for parents. in New Orleans in particular, so New Orleans, as you can imagine, we do everything a little bit different than everybody else in the foundation. But in New Orleans, a lot of our workforce development work has been focused kind of on more so on opportunity youth. So 16 to 24-year-olds that are not connected to school or to a job. And so while the education focus really is on early childhood education, we I guess, reconnect with young people on the workforce side. And so there is definitely some interest there. We've done a lot of the partners that we support on the workforce development side are absolutely working with young people. So yes, we can pick up that conversation.
Thank you. Let me follow up with you. Thank you.
Right. So we are going to make sure that everyone receives Christy's contact information. Christy, I am so grateful to you. I'm delighted with that Dr. Teamer helped us to make a match, because we will absolutely be knocking on the door and ringing your phone to make sure that we are part of this vision and making sure this vision becomes a reality, because we know we are a tremendous asset to help get this done. I'm going to turn it to Toya to get the last word on this piece, but just really grateful, Christy.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I just wanted to thank Christy as well. We've been having a lot of kind of offline conversations and thought that this would be a great opportunity to kind of pull all of the information together. The one thing too, Christy, that I was just gonna also elaborate on was around some of the larger opportunities that you all have and the focus of collaboration. So I know that there's gonna be a lot of kind of offline conversations with you around specific projects. But as we think about the HBCU Council as a whole, to really think about where are some areas where we can all work together to collaborate and pull together more of a kind of consortium grant proposal to support the work that you all are doing as we prioritize the work that we do. So I just want to thank you again, Christy. I don't want to put pressure on you with all of the asks, but just glad that you were able to join us today.
I'm looking forward to the conversations and see what we can do together. So more to come.
Great, thank you. And so, Dr. Teamer always puts the cabbage ball on the tee so we can knock it out the ballpark. So that was a perfect transition to this idea of collaboration and consortium and how we do this work, because the federal and state committee, Dr. Teamer and Dr. Verrett, have been thinking deeply about this. So the other piece of their update today is around the power of bringing our HBCUs together to leverage research and innovation. So I'll ask Carrie Robeson from our team to kick this off with Dr. Stubblefield.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. I am delighted to introduce, for those of you who do not come in contact with him regularly, Dr. Michael Stubblefield. He is Vice Chancellor for Research and Sponsored Initiatives at Southern A&M. And I have been at the Board of Regents for 20 years. For that whole time, he has really been a statewide leader in university-based research, economic development, and community engagement. And he's one of the key officers in the state driving Louisiana's research work forward. In that role, he's been working on a joint initiative to bring together our HBCUs in Louisiana in support of one another's research efforts and the communities and businesses that are served by our HBCUs. The effort that he's going to tell you about has been developed and continues to develop through extensive conversations with campuses, government agencies, including LED, and economic development groups across the state to make sure that this effort is fully responsive to the interests and needs of the participants. It's an exciting and highly innovative opportunity for HBCUs to act as a collaborative. And in this sense, will model this kind of partnership for the nation and really be first in class for this kind of collaborative effort among HBCUs. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Stubblefield to give you more information.
Thanks a lot, Carrie. And good morning to everyone again. That was actually most of the presentation, so thanks very much. I guess it comes down to about can we do something together that, as the commissioner said, can it be a first in some fashion? Is there a blue ocean strategy that can bring our institutions together to work on something big? Well, I was looking at some numbers actually earlier this morning. I was looking at SBIR numbers overall, the last 5 years. 2017, $3 billion awarded for SBIRs, which Louisiana received was about 7.3 million. And then as recently as 2019, about $3.5 billion in award and about 9.1 million awarded to Louisiana. So my initial overture to the Board of Regents is about how can we actually work with our institutions for collective impact or being very collectively competitive in this environment today. Well, one of the things that we noted was the fact that a lot of these awards that federal or otherwise are really driven by proximity to small businesses. And a lot of those businesses really don't exist in Louisiana. They're more so on the East Coast or the West Coast. So one of the things that we looked at was a model that we actually started out at Southern, where we started recruiting some small businesses that actually worked in the DC area, saying, why don't you work with our guys and let's do some proposals and projects together. And then in so doing, they actually hire some of our students on our campus. So one of the great things about it is saying that, look, we can actually be a magnet for new opportunities. And hence, how can Louisiana HBCUs and businesses actually work together for a collective impact in our state, targeting certain opportunities? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we'll keep on going. So one of the things that we have in the presentation was about establishing this collaborative business development environment. Well, one of the things that we saw as an opportunity was to say, well, can our Louisiana universities actually come together around particular target industries or research? And one great thing about it is the fact that we really are truly aligned with the new HBCU Partners Act, which is emphasizing more collaboration with the federal government. We also are really positioning ourselves to support connected minority communities, which is another federal opportunity. So this strategy that we're putting forth to you guys today is really saying, let's in Louisiana create our own Partners Act for our HBCUs that aligns with the policies that's being presented statewide and nationally. So one of the things that we see as a unique opportunity is the fact that during the Biden's campaign and being popular right now is an emphasis on investment on HBCU research. About $10 billion, I believe, for new research centers. Another $20 billion for research infrastructure overall. But again, it comes down to, is there a common opportunity that our institutions can work together on? Can we be a tool again to support small business opportunities here in this state? So again, I want to thank President Verrett and his co-chair, Dr. Teamer, for allowing me an opportunity to speak to the state and federal committee, but also I had a chance to speak to my counterparts at our other HBCUs as well. So in that we kind of refine the conversation about some of the things that we might saw as challenges, but opportunities. For instance, how do we retain or support our autonomy at our institutions? But at the same time, how can we promote scale and efficiency in terms of how we respond to these sectors that we look forward to? Next slide, please. So again, it's about a collaborative research structure here in Louisiana around these opportunities here. And these are just some ideas. So some of our schools might be looking at advanced manufacturing or sustainable energy, aerospace and defense. And some of them are, which I don't have on this slide, right, are supportive in terms of, well, we do have an agribusiness and ruralpreneurship opportunities. So one of the conversations we've had, say, for instance, Southern University Law Center, could it be a centralized space to support tech transfer opportunities for our institutions? Southern University Ag Center, because of this impact across the state of Louisiana, can it be used as a tool to support our engagement with other communities across the state? We know that in New Orleans, Xavier and Dillard are really honed in on, again, around healthcare. And you heard Dr. Ammons mention earlier today about the emphasis on targeting education and research. So, and then we know that Grambling, for instance, is targeting its efforts onto cyber infrastructure. So there's a commonality in terms of a desire to impact Louisiana's infrastructure economy. But then one of the questions that was brought up, how could these targeted efforts at the end of the day, because we have something that is a blueprint, a strategy, how does it at the end of the day support the workforce development at individual institutions? You know, drive how we recruit students. How do we engage companies? How do we actually support entrepreneurship? So those are the questions that we see in front of us. But we also know that there's tremendous opportunity in using our institutions as truly magnets for drawing collaborations within the state and national. Next slide, please. And I think I might have missed one slide that actually showed some type of wheel in the presentation, but essentially, we can imagine that in the center of that one is some type of collaborative space. The question is, can the Louisiana HBCU Advisory Council be something that grows to let be more active a platform? Same thing that we've done with the Louisiana Optical Network Initiative, which is now the Louisiana Optical Network Institute. Can we have something that provides some type of supportive structure that allows institutions to focus on something that they know and hold dear for their opportunities, but provide something common as relates to some services that will allow us to have a collective impact nationally and globally? So our position is that we know that what the federal government is looking at, we know that the things that Louisiana is trying to drive for, how can our universities actually be a tool to support those engagements? Now, again, blue sky, blue ocean opportunities. At the end of the day, we hone in terms of creating some type of platform or strategy for us to have a focus. And one of the things that we're suggesting in this one, and I've had an opportunity to speak to my HBCU president counterparts about jointly investing in this one. So I'm looking forward to your support on it, where we will actually engage a third-party consultant to help us drive down to this point. And again, essentially be our HBCU strategy for Louisiana. How do we work with the private sector? How do we work in terms of workforce development? And again, I want to appreciate those agencies, including Louisiana Economic Development, that help us to really delve out this conversation to date. And Carrie mentioned our conversations with LAB and Committee of 100. So we've done the footwork in terms of saying, you know, where can we work together? Where can we collaborate together? With all of them willing to provide some type of convenient support and also input in the strategy. So, and we'll go forward to a bunch of questions I had, and these generally, a few slides forward. One more. Okay, right there. So what can I say HBCUs be responsible for? What activities can occur at each institution? Well, the institution's activities and responsibility focused by its resources and our research experiences. And how do we actually turn this plan from concept to action, right? So there are a lot of operational questions, because at the beginning of the day, we're not saying that we're actually impacting, we desire to impact the autonomy of any institution. And I think if I remember correctly, Dr. Verrett, about to make sure that we didn't move forward impacting intellectual property at our institutions. But what is the joint opportunity as it relates to us working together? So there are questions that we want to address, but the impact, I believe it can be tremendous to Louisiana and to our students. And in this presentation, which we'll provide to you, and we just go through the other slides fairly quickly, it's just the questions, you know, what does it look like? You know, the management structure, what industry will we target and what we look for? You know, so these are the things that we hope to define, to put forward as a true plan of action, allows us to work directly with our institutions and with the state and on national opportunities, as the government looks forward to creating these unique centers of excellence. So creating a space where Louisiana has a unique centers of excellence concept that works hand in hand in terms of business partnering opportunities. So that's the gist of the conversation. And definitely we look forward to any feedback that you might have. But again, I want to thank the state and federal committee, as well as the commission, for allowing us the opportunity to present this to the group today.
Great. Are there questions, comments? And while you're thinking about those, Dr. Verrett?
Just thank you, Michael. This was excellent, and it simplifies many of the issues. If I might add one other thought as we think of what we're doing, it's also about accessing venture capital, because as there are many ideas that come out of not only our research infrastructure, but other efforts as well that could be supported if we had access to venture capital. And that's a difficult issue for many Louisiana businesses in general, and also how we can actually, as a corporate body, be able to attract venture, take a look at key ideas.
Yes, sir. And one comment on that one is that I know that the federal government, and actually through Commerce, for instance, did a pilot as it relates to creating a venture fund for small businesses. We didn't actually have our platform that allows us to say, how does Louisiana actually create something similar that supports core investment? And that's where some of the policy comes in. Where can the state support a mechanism to allow us to attract those types of funds to move things forward?
Mandy, any comments, questions?
Yeah, this is spot on with a lot of what we've been working on at Louisiana Economic Development. And I believe Dr. Stubblefield has been in contact with Susie Showen on our team here at LED. And Susie's been keeping me abreast of everything. And it's in alignment with what we need to be doing in this state. Somebody just mentioned venture capital. It's one of our Achilles heels when it comes to support for entrepreneurship in the state. We're just not a VC rich state. We have an angel investor tax credit program that is underutilized. We don't have any public venture capital funds in the state. We have a couple of private funds, not enough though, and definitely not enough for minority businesses that need access to that type of capital when they're just starting out with innovations that can help solve a problem that the public sector or a private company has a need for. So this is quite interesting, and I was taking notes throughout the full presentation. I've been aware of it, but this is my first time seeing the full presentation, and we're happy to help support. You know, Dr. Stubblefield also mentioned SBIR funding. That's federal funding that's provided to small businesses that are helping support research efforts. And we have a research and development tax credit here in Louisiana that shows favor towards companies that obtain these SBIR or STTR, tech transfer grants. And that's because they're already fully vetted and they're already working on helping solve a problem or have proven themselves to be legit to help solve innovative problems by the federal government. And so we have some tools here in the state that we can bring to the table. But the big one is just access to capital, to particularly the venture capital for innovative startup companies. It's an issue and it's a shortcoming. And I mean, it's not surprising. I want to say 75% of the VC capital is in California and Massachusetts. And so Louisiana is not alone as compared to other states that are trying to find ways to help entrepreneurs get a leg up and actually bring their products to fruition, their ideas and inventions to fruition. And we got some creative people in Louisiana. We just need to help fill in those gaps. So we're happy to support.
Thank you, Mandy. I like Dr. Stubblefield, this proactive approach. I think about how far we come to the legislators that are on the council. This council, as you know, was started because one senator thought that the HBCUs were an afterthought, not a first thought when it came to Louisiana aggressively recruiting companies. And so I love that this approach allows us to be sort of in charge of our own destiny and to take advantage of all of the resources, excitement, and energy around the power of HBCUs at this moment in time. So I think that's great. I wonder, Dr. Stubblefield, if you want to share anything at all about your lobby conversation or your C100 conversation and feedback.
Most definitely, thank you. And one other comment too, because I'm very appreciative of Ms. Slater's presentation as well, because there's one point in it about a policy around equity and racial development, right? Collaborations. So this project here, this initiative actually supports workforce opportunities for our institutions, for our students. The lobby conversation and the Committee of 100, both of them in the vein of recruiting and supporting Louisiana businesses, both offered the opportunity to co-convene discussions with the businesses here in Louisiana. Committee of 100 actually even extended themselves to include us in their federal overtures starting as early as next month, travel permitting, to be part of that conversation in DC, working with different federal legislatures and federal agencies. And also one of the things that I really want to make sure that we emphasize is that we really look at this as an opportunity to diversify our revenue at our institutions. And one way to keep those long-term partners is to say, how do we actually making money together? So when it is a business, they really want to know about the revenue, their bottom line, the access to workforce. But the way federal policy and legislation is written, it provides us an avenue where we can be a cost benefit to private companies to allow them to be more competitive in the arena of obtaining new federal funding as it relates to providing services. So at the end of the day, I really see an opportunity for us to embed the entrepreneurship, the business component that Ms. Mitchell had referenced earlier, and also being able to identify what are the tools and resources that the state of Louisiana has that aligns with some of the things we're saying, so that we immediately know where they are and becomes our handbook of action for our institutions.
Right. All those resources, very important. Someone was speaking. Dr. Kimbrough, any thoughts?
No, I think that we have to look at some opportunities for collaborative business partnerships. The challenge with a lot of these things is making sure that there is some seed money to be able to do this. So becomes a higher burden for an institution that's operating on the margins to make an investment to do something like this when you don't have that kind of capital. And so we've got to try to find ways for people to make those capital investments for us. The point I kept making about this whole opportunity zone thing. You can't take advantage of an opportunity zone if you don't have the capital to do the startup. And so that's going to be the same kind of thing with this. And I think what's been happening, particularly in this racial reckoning period, is that you're seeing a lot of private organizations go out and get that capital and then come back and say, well, we're going to do this for the HBCUs. And that becomes a problem too. So those are some of the things that we've got to try to figure out, like how do we get people to invest the capital in the institutions and let us make those decisions about how to use it to leverage it. So just
thank you. Very good points. Senator Boudreaux?
Yeah, Dr. Reed, Commissioner, I just wanted to just bring it back. First of all, I agree. We have this at a level that we can't lose. The point that I wanted to make, and Mandy kind of hit on it, and earlier Dr. Teamer and so many others, we can't just count on the legislature once a year for budget purposes. And we have an opportunity with this council to keep them engaged and keep them informed. When we talk about in Dr. Stubblefield's presentation, partners, the legislature has to be, the members of the legislature has to be a partner 365 days a year. They have to know what we're doing, in this state to move the needle and to do more things. And I just want to say that this council has the opportunity to do that. I look forward to our continued collaboration, but I really appreciate the level that we're speaking of, because it's not pitting one institution against another. It's bringing us together as one unit. And that's the only way we're going to do that. Otherwise, we get left out of all these partnerships. I heard somebody say something about economic opportunities and zones and all those things. Absolutely right. If the entire legislature is not engaged in this process, we lose. So I think with President Biden's initiatives and your leadership, Commissioner, and so many others at the various institutions throughout this state, we're going to get there. So just wanted to make that point that the perception by the colleagues on who are Republicans and who don't understand the mission is that, we come to the legislature once a year, we look for money, and there's no accountability. We're now plugging those holes. We're showing that we're viable, number one, and number two, that we're putting people into the workforce at high levels. So just again, looking forward to this continued conversation and action at a very high level.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator Boudreaux. And thank you for being such an amazing partner and thought partner in this work. I hear a theme going through, which is sort of the importance of asset mapping and knowing what we need and articulating that clearly so that we have the foundational support to really advance good work. I think Dr. Stubblefield talked about a third party helping us, and he also mentioned, and Mandy and others, asset mapping, so we know where the gaps are, what's there, what's not there, and we're leveraging all of the resources that are available to us. So I definitely see some follow-up work on that. Dr. Amons, I think you had your hand up next.
Yes. As the father of an entrepreneur, I just want to reinforce this, the importance of capital for minority and small businesses, and whatever we can do as a state, as a university system, as university systems across the state, we should definitely continue to advocate on behalf of those sometimes young people who have great ideas but don't have the capital to start their businesses. So this is certainly a theme that we should continue to voice. The other thing that I wanted to say to Dr. Stubblefield, great presentation. And recently, Southern University and A&M College became the first HBCU in the country to enter into a mentor-protege agreement with Boeing and NASA. The university will be working with the team at MISU on the Artemis project, where we're going to send astronauts to the moon again. But as a contractor now with Boeing and NASA, we have the opportunity to give or to award subcontracts to subcontractors to do some of the work in this really exciting venture that the United States has undertaken through this partnership with Boeing and NASA. And Dr. Stubblefield, I don't know if you wanted to say something else about it, but that's yet another opportunity that we have as historically Black colleges and universities to pursue contracts, become contractors with federal agencies and with the private sector, where we get an opportunity to create opportunities for minority and small businesses.
So just to put a cap, one of the things that we said during this conversation was the need to create and diversify revenue streams. And one of the ways that we see it is the development of a program that supports contracting for HBCUs. And we really do know what those gaps are in terms operationally that allows us not to scale it to what we want to be, how we want to be. But your reference to about the opportunity to work with other HBCUs here in Louisiana to be potential suppliers to that contract is a tremendous statement, because that one gives us a door opening into all of NASA just with that one particular program. So similarly, having these established centers of excellence, whether it's around financial technologies, around agribusiness programs. So you can just imagine us having maybe 4 or 5 of these centers that support a lot of the contracting areas that you just referenced. It'll be tremendous for the state of Louisiana. And it does give that value proposition for businesses to want to work with us as well.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. Does anyone else have, I don't want to overlook anyone. Anyone else have a question or comment? If not, Dr. Stubblefield, I know you had a series of questions. What are next steps and how do we continue to advance this work?
So minimally, I'll be reaching out to your research counterparts at your institutions, your leaders at the team, and then we'll have like a 1 or 2 pages that suggests our next steps. After I speak with the board of regents about, how do we envision having a third-party consultant to come in and what are the expected outcomes of that report. So you can expect that within the next week and a half for consideration.
That's great. So Dr. Stubblefield will be in touch with your folks. Let them know it's coming. If you're excited and eager about it, please share that excitement as well. So we want to make sure that we continue to move this work forward. Very important for our state, certainly for our institutions and certainly for our students. Thank you, Dr. Stubblefield. Anything else, Dr. Stubblefield or Carrie, for the good of the group on this topic?
Nothing from me.
Great, thank you.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was a robust two-parter from Federal and State Resources Relations Council. But you all know we do have some other councils that are doing phenomenal work. And so I wanted to give an opportunity for the other councils to give an update on where we are with 2021 goals, what needs they have, any dates or any information we need to be aware of. So Dr. Amons, Academic Affairs, can we call on you first? You're muted, Dr. Amons. Can you unmute and highlight anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say this is just like when I was in school. My name starts with A, so I was always the first one to be called on. But anyway,
you're always at the ready.
Yes. First of all, I want to say that the academic work group met recently where we examined our priorities for the upcoming year. And I want to acknowledge the great brain trust that we have serving on the academic work group. Of course, Representative Gaines is a part of our group. Dr. Barnes-Teamer, Dr. Littleton-Stibe, Dr. Verrett, Dr. Henderson, and Attorney Preston Castile. And I also need to, I just have to also recognize the great support from your staff, Commissioner, Judith, Ned, Susanna, Craig, and Randall Brumfield for the work that they're doing with us to help us put these plans together, so that they really focus on the master plan and how the work of this council and our work groups will support the achievement of goals of the master plan. So for this year, our overarching goal is to design a systematic approach for teacher preparation, a teacher readiness program, where the intent is to identify barriers that limit and or prevent scholars of color from pursuing and obtaining teaching degrees here in the state of Louisiana. And so we will build on pockets of excellence and develop a systematic approach where we work towards the outcome of increasing the number of diverse teachers in Louisiana with increased attention to male teachers. We see some potential areas of partnership. Commissioner, I know that you and Superintendent Brumley have been talking and discussing ways that we can bring the deans of our colleges of education into a forum where we can began laying out plans. The Lewis Board of Regents grant that was recently announced, where we could possibly leverage that to determine how teacher preparation and that particular project, which is focused on delivering open educational resources for dual enrollment, general education courses, where we're gonna restructure how we teach 25 general education courses across our institutions here in the state, where we can have a chance of lowering the occurrence of D's, F's, and W's in these courses, because we know these courses are critical to the eventual retention and graduation of our students. And then to strengthen transfer pathways for students, leveraging our community and technical colleges, which include having a more seamless process for student mobility, articulation, acceptance of credit, and program alignment between institutions. And then we see the need for a data component, where there is significant effort for data collection, where we can determine the inventory of data from BESI, the Board of Regents, and also the Department of Education on the number of African American students who have taken dual enrollment and college credit courses, and then provide data that informs student-centered best practices, similar to the Student Success Council, which recently met. And I really look forward to the work of the Student Success Council. And then if we are going to achieve these really ambitious goals that we have in the master plan, we have to leverage all institutions in the state of Louisiana, both public and private. And so we will be working with Dr. Messer and LACU, IR or institutional research representatives regarding data points that acknowledge the efforts of all of these institutions toward attainment of these goals. And then K through 12 outreach and influence. And really, you know, this is in the historical wheelhouse of HBCUs. We have been historically a place that produced teachers for our schools across Louisiana and across America. So we're looking at developing a comprehensive strategy to perform collaborative and intentional outreach to African American students in K through 12. And then the last thing, and this is really something that I think we should all celebrate. Recently, with the support and recommendation from Commissioner Reed, the Board of Regents established an HBCU designation. As some of you may know, at one time there were 5 classifications of post-secondary institutions in Louisiana. And now with the recognition of a classification for HBCUs, we now have a 6th classification. So including a designation for HBCUs in the master plan, it acknowledges the unique role, scope, and mission of HBCUs that may not have been encompassed in the already existing 5 classifications. So the intent here is to help ensure that HBCUs can invest in efforts where necessary in order to respond to the needs of the students that they were established to serve. And Commissioner Reed, we want to thank you for your support of this designation. It gives HBCUs now an opportunity to really address some of the critical needs, especially of African American students, and to fully support this goal of increasing by 23% the awarding of credentials, degrees to African Americans in the state of Louisiana. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Aggressive and comprehensive. So thank
Yes.
you, Dr. Ammons, very much. Any questions, comments? I'm very excited about all of it. I appreciate you leading with the diversification of the teacher corps. As you know, as you all may know, the Department of Ed released their priorities last week. I'll make sure that Tanisha sends that report if we haven't already sent it. But I think there are 5 top priorities, and teacher leaders and diversification of the teacher corps are 2 of the 5 from the Department of Education. So we're going to work on all of it, obviously, but I'm very excited about Cade Brumley coming to this council to talk about the importance of diverse teachers. And we are, Dr. Ammons, he and I speak to the deans of education for public and private institutions and really do plan to lay out a game plan to move that forward. And I just want to mention while we're talking about that, Dr. Ammons, that I ran into one of Southern University Baton Rouge's students that were high school students who identified themselves as wanting to be teachers. Project Pipeline Repair. I couldn't think of the name of it. And he told me he's doing so well and loving the program. So that was a group of, I think, 7 or 8 African-American male high school students who we are supporting and mentoring, who want to be teachers. And they're best in class, making phenomenal grades, and super excited. So we have to be intentional about developing our teacher corps for sure.
Exactly. Well, we're proud of them and we're proud of that program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands raised. So the next group is Workforce and Economic Development. Mandy Mitchell. Mandy, can you share?
Yes, good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. We have identified, LWC, that would be Secretary Ava Dejoie, Kelly Taylor White, and Tavares Walker, who has joined our team with support from the Dr. Lisa Vosper. We have developed our plan for 2021 to focus on a number of key areas, including continuing to roll out the Higher Ed Economic Development Playbook. You all may recall early on, we presented this playbook to this council, and shortly after, we aggressively pushed that out to HBCU institutions around the state. And what the playbook is, it was designed by LED Fast Start to help higher ed institutions around the state better understand how to position themselves to be economic development partners at the local, regional, and state level for these situations when we have companies that are looking to expand in the state or companies looking to locate to Louisiana, and there is a gap, a workforce need or a skills need. How can the local institution be a partner that is thought of to be at the table up front as we are preparing to compete for those new jobs, but also as we're responding to requests for proposals from companies, site selectors, and executives from across the country. So that's what the playbook is about. We want to continue making sure that we have coverage, that our higher ed institutions, particularly HBCUs, are familiar with some of the best practices. LED Fast Start, as you all know, we were the presenter for November, and we did share with you all at that point in time an update on our project wins that entailed HBCUs, and we partnered with 4 different public HBCUs, always looking for that special opportunity where we can partner with our private institutions. And I will say DXC in New Orleans was sort of one of our first opportunities to partner from a recruitment standpoint with Dillard and Xavier, because there's such a huge need at DXC for IT software development, computer whiz type staff and grads. We expanded the tent and the umbrella to include our private institutions, but we are somewhat limited in how we can deploy funds for curriculum purposes towards public institutions. And so we have partnered with 4 different institutions, and that represents over $9 million in opportunities where we have been able to support the development of new programs, new curriculum and programs to fulfill needs of employers that are growing in the state or new employers to the state. We also want to be a connector for hiring practices in diversity and equity and inclusion. We talked about that a little bit earlier about, how do we make sure that employers in the state know how to go about and where to go about looking for diverse talent. We want to make sure that our HBCUs are connected and are playing a role in those conversations. And then that dovetails along with that third bullet. What we want to do is identify some advocates in business and industry around work-based learning initiatives. And at this point, I will turn it over. I don't know if my colleagues at LWC want to talk a bit about that bullet in particular with apprenticeships and work-based learning opportunities, but it's something that we want to make sure that business and industry understand that there's a gold mine at our HBCUs in the state. So Kelly, Tavares, I don't know if you all wanted to add anything to our 2021 focus areas, and particularly work-based learning and apprenticeship opportunities.
Tavares, I wanted to take a moment to welcome him to our mighty band. He is not a stranger to HBCUs and HBCU work, but he has been tapped by the secretary to lead the workforce development unit at LWC. So we're extraordinarily happy to have him on the team. And if at a minimum, take a moment to introduce yourself to those who don't know the Tavares Walker, and we will listen to hear from you on the workforce front.
Well, good morning. It's still morning to everybody. It is absolute my honor and humble and professional to be given this opportunity by the secretary, and I work with a talented group of individuals here at LWC, including Kelly Taylor White. But I'll be remiss if I did not say that I am a product of a HBCU and spent 10 years as an employee of a HBCU. And so I would like to tell everybody that I've gotten my professional acumen and all from a HBCU and all that it has to offer. And I see Dr. Amos is over there smiling, him and Dr. Stubblefield, but I am glad to be in this role leading workforce development. Generally speaking, that we have doubled our focus and really hammered down on developing registered apprenticeships surrounding some of those things that Mandy talked about, creating apprenticeships and different work-based learning based on what is the need of the current workforce and what is the future need. And we are also partnering with our partners at the Department of Education to ensure that we have a pipeline like focus, that we not only touch those post-secondary opportunities, but we also tap into those secondary opportunities. So there's a continuing learning and skill and credential attainment at the end goal with hopes of diversifying the workforce. But I'll stop there and let Kelly say a few words, but I am excited to be here, excited to see all the faces and Dr. Reed, and I'm just in a new role now, but I am still the same. I don't know about the Tavares, but I'm still Tavares. And if I could do anything that the office that I lead that we can help, just let us know. Most of you have my cell phone number, but I look forward to working with you guys.
And you know, I'm not going to let him be that modest. He is the Tavares Walker. So yes, we here at LWC are ridiculously focused on promoting work-based learning experiences through apprenticeship, through industry-based certification training, through skill training. And therefore, this is one of our focus points. This is one of the things that we are very committed to. And as I'm sure most of you have already gathered from our staff and our input, we are rather focused and committed to HBCUs in general. And I will say this just to make Tavares smile. Now that my money has stopped going to Grambling, I can go back to my own HBCU and I'll wear my Southern colors now. So thank y'all for the opportunity.
Thank you guys so much. I did want to also mention for Kelly's purpose in particular, that the Workforce Investment Council, our statewide WIC, has invited the HBCU Council to do a report out on the work and the efforts that are taking place in our collective work. And the beauty of that is that our WIC, our statewide WIC, is 51% business and industry. And one of the goals that we have lifted up is to really begin to engage business and industry more intimately inside the work that we're doing with our Workforce and Economic Development Subcommittee, so that as we begin to create a statewide framework and policy for work-based learning in a more broad sense, and apprenticeships, et cetera, as we move forward with that we'll have frontline engagement from our business and industry partners. So Kelly, thank you for always advocating for us at the WIC level. Tavares, thank you. Thank the secretary for us on in terms of all of the support that the Workforce Commission has given us. And Mandy, I tease all the time that Susie has an office at the Board of Regents in my office. So we are constantly connected at the LED level, and we're extraordinarily excited about moving our 2021 agenda forward.
Thank you so much. And yes, we at the WIC do support all of the efforts that are going forth in work-based learning, and we have promoted those initiatives very strongly. I thank Commissioner Reed for her leadership in that respect from the educational perspective. So thank you again.
Excellent,
And
thank
that's
you.
our report,
Mandy?
Dr. Reed.
All right, are there questions? So exciting, very good work. Dr. Kimbrough, Public Relations.
All right, good morning. Let me share a few notes from our work group. We met on Wednesday, January 20th to review our goals and the focus areas, and you see the main ones on the screen. We really want to do an HBCU 101 for key stakeholders, lawmakers, high school associations. Hopefully it'll be a part of the conversation we can have with the state ed commissioner as well. I think that would be important to have. Just sort of as a side note from that, one of the things that, I was asked to do through the Board of Regents office was, as a part of Black History Month, to do a short lecture video about HBCUs. I have everything. Nikki has worked with every institution. So this will sort of be an idea as to what we want to be able to do with all these key constituent groups, to have these short presentations so people understand HBCUs, what are like some of the key success indicators that we have. We'll be able to work in economic impact numbers as well, but just to give people an idea about the HBCUs in Louisiana, our relevance and importance. So this is sort of have a chance to sort of do a test run to do this, but we'll flesh this out a lot more going forward. But that's part of this HBCU 101 that we want to be able to do for all of our key constituencies, to continue to raise the profile of institutions, and particularly in this time. I mean, I think Dr. Hunter Reed mentioned earlier, just the attention to HBCUs and a number of articles and news reports over the last couple of months, this Kamala Harris effect, if you will, is really something for us to really ride during this period of time. So I think that's very important. The second thing is that we'll continue to provide updates and work closely with the Workforce Investment Council and the Industry-Based Certification Council as well. So all that ties in nicely together. We also want to do another HBCU Day at the Capitol. Right now is scheduled for Monday, April 26th. We're going to plan simultaneously to see whether or not it'll be in person or virtual, but we'll be able to operate either way. And the goal will be to really focus on social media and maximizing our visibility. Once again, just sort of leveraging the conversations about HBCUs that are taking place nationally. We'll reach out to make sure that each institution has one designate to work on the HBCU Day Planning Committee. So you'll look forward to that. But that, once again, is Monday, April the 26th. And Nikki has just posted in the chat just so y'all can have that as well, okay? Tonight, we are partnering with Louisiana Public Broadcasting to host Louisiana's Black Church, The Politics of Perseverance. That's at 6:30 tonight. I was just checking on social media. The number of spaces that they had sort of got sold out, so they had to add more spaces, which is really good. And so this will include a panel discussion and a screening, and is based on a two-part series. There's a book that Henry Louis Gates just did about the Black Church. So next week, there's a two-part series on the Black Church in America on PBS. He was on MSNBC Morning Joe this morning. And the reason it caught my attention is that the person who is directing and producing it is Stacy Holman, who is a 93 graduate of Dillard. She's a former Miss Dillard as well. And Stacy worked with the legendary Stanley Nelson when he did the documentary on HBCUs, Tell Them We Are Rising. So it's really high profile. So she was on there with Henry Louis Gates. So that's next week. But tonight is the pre-event to really focus on the Black Church in Louisiana. Robin Merrick, who's on this call today, gets the kudos for helping to arrange this, and she will host a panel tonight. There will be representatives from Southern, Grambling, Xavier, and Dillard to talk about the role of the Black Church. So you'll get to hear some of that. So that information is available, and as I multitask in a minute, I'll put the link to the Louisiana event in the chat. I'm doing that right now. So you'll have that as well for anybody who's interested in watching that. Okay, I got that done. If you want to check that out tonight at 6:30, you have to RSVP for it to do that. So I'm trying to make sure I got all of my, and then the last thing that we're also considering in the fall is to do another media and branding summit for our institutions. One of the things that, once again, we keep talking about is that we've got this really heightened visibility. And I hear from media outlets all the time, they want to talk more and more about HBCUs. And so it's not just Kamala Harris, but it's all these key people in positions all across the country. Cedric Richmond in his role being an HBCU graduate, the high profile mayors all across the country that are HBCU graduates, the chair of Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty is a graduate of Central State University. So on all of these key issues, and even the new book about 400 Souls, I think the name of it is, edited by Ibram Kendi, who's a graduate of FAMU. And I always use that as an example when people try to say, well, HBCUs, are separate, and, how do you bring people together? And I'm like, you got an HBCU grad, his last couple of books, he's teaching everybody how to understand, Black folks and how we're going to work together. That's done by an HBCU grad who went to FAMU. So there are lots of those opportunities that are happening right now. So once again, for us, how do we better leverage, social media, which I like because it's free, but there are ways that you can leverage that. So we want to keep doing that. We had one a couple of years ago with Essence that went very well. So to do another one of those in the fall is a conversation that we'll have. So you'll see the main things that we have that listed that we want to do. I think we've had some really good wins over the past year for this work group, and we want to continue to build on that momentum, particularly in this time when the country is paying more attention to HBCUs. How do we maximize that in terms of not only students, but, support both, in word and deed, and the deed being philanthropic resources as well. So That's the update from our committee. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. I will take those.
Exciting work. And thank you for doing the HBCU 101 for us as the test drive. Our team is excited about that. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Kimbrough. We have to strike while the iron is hot, and it is right at this moment. And this council is doing amazing work. And we are in a unique position to leverage and accelerate because of the organization that we have established. And we've been at this for some time. And so I think we are well positioned to really advance good work. Very excited, very, very excited. Okay, are there questions? No one's raised their hand. All right. So thank you, Dr. Kimbrough, Mandy, Dr. Amons, Dr. Verrett, Toya. All of the councils are doing phenomenal work, and I really appreciate how we have thoughtfully positioned the work for the year so that we can execute with energy and fidelity against that work. One of the things, Dr. Kimbrough, that I didn't mention to you separately as the legislation is coming forward with Representative Hughes is that we would have an annual report to the legislature and public. And so I do want Dr. Kimbrough, your committee to think about, and this council to think about when is the best time of the year to have that report ready. And so do we want to spend some time this year and have the report ready at the beginning of the year, going into a spring session, et cetera. But please give some thought to that, Walter.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I got it. We could probably be pretty flexible. I'd probably lean on some of your thoughts in terms of when you think is best, but we can make it happen. So I'm not concerned about that.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so we are right on time. I want to give some Regents updates. First, Walter, talking about the event tonight and the power of the HBCUs, the power of you as leaders, really, I think, speaks to me around this COVID situation and the vaccines and confidence in the vaccines and the work that we will do individually and collectively to try to make sure our communities have good information, have access to vaccines, are continuing to test. So I just wanted to say that we are continuing to work with the Department of Health from the Board of Regents perspective, trying to make sure all of our allied health students, faculty, and staff are being vaccinated in their priority, which is right now. So I have set a goal to try to make sure in the next 2 to 3 weeks, everyone has vaccine. I believe, I don't know if Dr. Craig is still on, but I believe as of last week, half of our institutions or about half had vaccine or had started. And I know New Orleans has had a robust approach with partnerships with LSU Health Science Center and Tulane Health Science Center as well. So I'll continue doing that. I know that Dr. Kimbrough, Dr. Verrett, some of you participated in the trials. So you are critical voices that can help to provide confidence around good information regarding the vaccines. We did ask for surveys of all of the allied health students, faculty, and staff early on, and we saw a very high level of individuals who did not want to take the vaccine. With our younger students, there was a lot of conversation around fertility and information or misinformation around complications around fertility. So I have spoken to Women's Hospital. They are doing some programming for us. I do have a call with all of the deans of nursing on this Wednesday to talk about those issues, myth busting, a Facebook Live with fertility experts, et cetera. And so as we identify areas of concern, mistrust around the medical community, concerns about fertility, as you hear things, let us know. As we hear things, we are going to program around that to try to continue to advance good information and the exchange of questions that will help, hopefully, our communities to feel like they understand exactly what their options are and they are making good choices because they have good information. So I just wanted to mention that. We're still heavily involved with the vaccine conversations, myth busting, public sector information, testing, et cetera, as I know you are, and I'm grateful for your work. So that's the sort of the COVID side of the house. Fast forward, as you all know, we've partnered with the Department of Ed to redesign the 11th and 12th grade of high school. So there will be a pilot in every region of the state. And I'm looking at the chart here, the 8 planning grants are supposed to be awarded in March with pathways adopted in June. So hopefully we have all of our regions represented. The responsibility was for the school district to partner with an education provider so that we could redesign the 11th and 12th grade together, walk through that process together. So hopefully you all are engaged in that, and we're very excited about that pilot and that initiative as we think about system redesign, erasing equity gaps, and moving work forward. So I think that's phenomenal. The other thing I'll mention is the Student Success Council. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has submitted names for. We've had our first council meeting. Dr. Toya Barnes-Teamer, Dr. Toya Barnes-Teamer is helping to facilitate that Student Success Council. She has stated that it is unique for the state of Louisiana. We have public and private 2-year and 4-year together at the table. Faculty, researchers, financial aid, diversity, equity, inclusion officers, and others, students at the table together, talking about how do we erase equity gaps, how do we increase educational attainment, how do we get to our master plan goal. And we do want to, from the Board of Regents perspective, fund research that will allow us to back map successful students of color who have completed their credential and what did it take for them to get there. So we want to fund our research. We want to invest in our diversity scholars in Louisiana, and we want to advance good work together. So I am over the moon excited about that. Big shout out and thanks to Dr. Teamer for coming to the table and helping us to get this organized, and looking forward to good results, great energy and engagement from the first meeting. So I'll stop there and see if there are questions. I want to be respectful of time. And I'm very excited about the HBCU Day at the Capitol, April 26th. I will mention that a good friend has transitioned from ACE to the Sloan Foundation, Laurel Espinoza. She is a diversity scholar, and she is working on diversifying STEM and very interested in diversifying the professoriate and helping more MSI and HBCU students become graduates in STEM and move into faculty positions. And so we're visiting with her and Dr. Kimbrough. She would love to visit with us on April 26th as part of a meeting. So we want to, from the Board of Regents perspective, try to continue to match foundations that we may not have relationships with to the council so that you all of us can build those relationships and move our work forward. Questions, comments?
Just one question, if I might. You mentioned the rethinking of the 11th and 12th grade.
Yes.
Is it possible to get some more information about that? Because I confess that I'm not aware of it, and I'd like to see how we might be able to help.
Yes, absolutely. It's called Fast Forward, and I will make sure that we send you the press release, the point of contact, and the timeline.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Other questions? Okay, are there public comments, Tanisha?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, hearing no questions and no public comments. Our next meeting, as was mentioned, is April 26th, the Advisory Council meeting, part of our HBCU Day at the Capitol, and that big celebration. So very excited about us having the opportunity to highlight all of our work. Nikki, thank you. She just put in the chat the fast forward information. So if you have time to lift it, grab it. If not, Tanisha will make sure everything in the chat gets emailed to you as a follow-on. Make sure tonight at 6:30, Dr. Kimbrough, is that the right time? That you're tuned in to learn more about the Black churches in Louisiana. Very excited about that opportunity. Anything else for the good of the order? Let's see, I'm going to check the chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move. Thank you, Dr. Reed, for a great meeting.
All right. Motion by Mandy and an appreciation as well. We'll take them both. All right. You guys are giving you a little bit of time back. Thank you for the amazing work. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
And
Have a
happy
good
Mardi
one.
Gras. Safe Mardi Gras.